Hello and welcome to another Diecast rescue. In this video we're going to restore a Matchbox 66C Greyhound bus. Now as you can see this bus originally came out in silver, and you can either have it with clear or yellow windows, amber windows. I think it came out around 1967. As you can see, this bus has been repainted by a previous owner, and it's a mixture of a kind of yellow, green, bronze, gold, and there's blue paint as well. But rather interestingly, you won't get to see me using the drill on this because the previous owner, at some point in the past, has opened this up and painted the interior. So I'll just show you that hopefully in a moment. Now as you can see, the glazing is not great because it's been painted on and it has got some cracks in it. And I can't source a replacement short of getting another bus and scrapping it for its windows, which isn't really the idea of what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so obviously we're going to have to take this apart, but for those of you who are worried about why using power tools on fragile toy cars, this one's already been taken apart and just comes apart very simply. And as you can see, it's a little kaleidoscope of different paints in there. You can also see the base plate's bent as well, which gives the bus a very sort of tail down attitude. Also the wheels are quite worn on this, so this has actually done quite a bit of mileage, so it's been well loved, this has. And obviously whoever repainted this was trying to get a new lease of life out of it. And as you can see, it's a very green interior, so we're going to have some fun getting rid of that, I think. As you can see, the body's been repainted, and the paint has gone underneath the glazing. It's basically looks like it's glued it in position. Now I have another model which is under repair at the moment as well, which has the same issue where someone's been overzealous with the paintbrush. And one of the things is when you try to remove overpainting, is that sometimes the paint has actually eaten into the plastic, because depending on what sort of thinners they've used or what have you, and so it can be quite. Once you've actually got the paint off, it might turn out you can't do anything with the glazing. Now, even though I know the paint has glued the glazing in place, I'm still going to have to drill rivets out. So for those of you worried about my using power tools, please look away. It is quite nice to think that somebody had the imagination to enhance their gameplay with this toy and actually repaint it and have a bit of fun with it, which you don't see many people doing now. Now as you can see, I've drilled the rivets out as far as I dare, and I'm just looking to see if I can loosen the paint with a pair of tweezers, and it's pretty well glued in. So basically I've got two options here. I can either use brake fluid to try and soften the paint and get it out, or I can use caustic soda. Now caustic soda, believe it or not, won't attack the plastic, but you're just got to watch it doesn't get too hot, otherwise the plastic will warp. But either way, where the paint has gotten on the plastic, I think it'll have affected the surface of the plastic a little bit, but we'll see. Okay, so what we're going to do is give brake fluid a go. So we're going to soak everything in brake fluid to see if we can get the paint off. And sometimes brake fluid gets everything off, sometimes it doesn't. It might just get it partly off and then you'll still be left with stubborn bits you can't shift. But let's just see what happens. Now obviously we'll leave things to soak for a little bit and then we'll have a go at giving it a bit of a scrub with a toothbrush. Now the paint that's on the wheels all generally comes off okay actually. The gold paint comes off. There's like some red paint and there's some coppery looking paint as well, which I'm not sure if that was something that had been mixed. So basically all that does come off, but there is some blue paint that does not shift. And what I'll do is I'll just paint the wheels black to hide it. Okay, so the green paint after soaking for a day starts to come off, but it still leaves an annoying amount of it still on there, and I don't want to rub it too hard because you actually start taking the plastic off if you're not careful. So what I might do is clean it up and just paint it so no one will ever know. Now after a day or so, the plastic just floated up out of the out of the coach body, so that was quite nice and easy. But it has got quite a lot of gungy paint on it, some of which has gone into the cracks on the plastic, on the inside and on the outside. So we'll try and rub this off, but I think I'm going to leave it another day and see what happens. Okay, so here we are now 3 days later, and the paint's basically coming off the plastic. But you can see the plastic looks slightly cloudy, and that is unfortunately the effect of the chemicals in the paint. Because I think the paint might have been, if it's been thinned down with thinners or something like that, that can ruin the plastic. But the main thing is we do get all the paint off. Okay, so as you can see, once the oil's been washed off, you see how cloudy it's left the plastic. That's from the paint, it's not the brake fluid doing that, that's actually the paint chemicals in the past have wrecked it. Now I don't have a replacement for this, so I'm going to try and polish this up a bit and see if we can get something out of that. Anyway, basically after a lot of polishing and scrubbing or whatever, it just looks slightly cleaner, but the frostiness kind of goes into the plastic, so I don't think there's going to be much we can do with that. So we'll have a think about that and see what we'll come back to it. So to get the paint off the bus, we're going to use caustic soda. Basically it's very handy for getting the paint from the inside of the casting as well as the outside, and it's quite good fun using caustic soda. So what I'm doing is using hot water in an old jar, and I'm just adding tiny amounts of caustic soda at a time, not throwing a load in, just sprinkling little bits in. And all the paint and the original silver finish all comes off quite easily. It's a bit like an Indiana Jones special effect really, isn't it? Now I'm doing this outside on an old tray at the side of my shed, so if anything gets spilt it's not going to do any harm. I'm wearing gloves, and I also have a big bucket of water handy in case anything gets splashed. But as you can see, it's lifting the paint off quite well. Now sometimes when you use paint stripper, your casting will actually come out quite nice and shiny once the paint's been removed, but with caustic soda it always leaves a little layer of oxidation on the metalwork. So we'll give it a rub down with our fake Dremel and get it all nice and shiny again. It's quite nice actually using the tool and getting the silver finish back on the casting. It always looks quite good. As you can see, it comes up quite well. I think that's quite acceptable. Right, on to the fun bit. So I'll spray some grey primer on the model first, and I'm using a specially designed cardboard utility tube to hold the model whilst I'm spraying it, and I'll let you decide what that tube is from. There you go, very Blue Peter. Okay, I've sprayed the base plate black, and I've masked the wheels off because it's a gloss black, and what I intend to do next is to actually paint the wheels so that they hides the damage that the wheels have had, and hides some of the blue paint which just would not come off with the brake fluid. And we might polish up the ends of the axles whilst we're about it as well. I'm using some of the Vallejo aluminium paint to bring the bus back to being an aluminium finish, or aluminum finish if you're American, look to it, which all the Matchbox models were. I don't think there was any colour variations on this, so we'll stick to the original plan. I always thought these buses looked quite futuristic, the idea of having an upstairs. I always imagined them being, as a kid, being quite sort of fun to travel on, but maybe they weren't in practice, probably really uncomfortable, I don't know. Okay, so one of my ideas to hide the damage to the clear plastic glazing is to actually colour it yellow so it looks like the amber version of the bus, and hopefully that might hide per the condition that the glazing's in. Now, believe it or not, this is not orange juice, this is actually floor polish with yellow food colouring in it. So I thought I'd try that and see how it comes out as an experiment. Now, believe it or not, it actually does work, although to be quite honest I thought the results were a bit patchy, but I don't know if that's just down to the plastic being a bit uneven. Now, while I was doing this, I completely forgot that I actually had a pot of yellow lacquer style paint, which it's been lying around for ages and I just completely forgot about it. So I realised I got this thing and I thought, oh, we'll give this a go. We'll try actually painting it yellow with this semi-transparent paint, which I'm going to use neat because I don't have any thinners for it, and it's quite runny, so it will spray. Okay, so we'll paint this up, we'll let it dry overnight, and they'll see what comes out in the morning. Okay, so now we have our major components of the coach. So we've got the body shell, the seating, which we've painted white, just to cover up the green patches, the glazing, which has come out quite good actually. I know it has orange peeled a little bit, but frankly I was really only trying to paint the sides and the roof bits you could see. I wasn't painting the whole thing perfectly, just the bits where it shows. And everything's come out quite nicely, I think. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put the glazing into the coach. Now, to hold it in place, I'm just going to use a little bit of silicone, clear silicone, so that at any point in the future it needs to be gotten out, it can just be pressed out. And it's just a little dab of silicone. So it's not going to be as bad as using something like Araldite or anything like that. This will actually will give under pressure, but it's sufficiently tight for it to keep it in place. Okay, so we just sit the glazing in and just press it down on the silicone. We might put a little bit of dab over some of the rivets, although I don't think that's really necessary, but I did it anyway. Okay, now we're just going to push in the seating, which just sits on top of everything. Okay, so now we're going to fit the base plate, which just sits in on top of its rivets. Oh, sorry, there's like a tongue at the front that goes in, and the two rivets at the back hold it in place. And then what we'll do is just put a little dab of super glue on the top of the rivet, so if it ever has to be taken apart in the future, somebody can just give it a quick whiz with a drill and it'll be gone. Sorry, it's actually some polystyrene cement. I don't know why I said super glue. But anyway, so basically the idea is it's a little bit of a stiff resistance to it coming apart again. And again, it can just be given a bit of a touch with a drill and it'll release. Okay, so now we're applying some reproduction transfers, which I've just wet in water and I'm just gently drawing off the backing. Gently does it, because some of these reproduction transfers are very fragile, so you have to be very careful with them. There we go. Whoops. And what I can do is I can reposition it with my fingers and use a brush to smooth it out. Don't try rubbing it very hard with a big piece of tissue paper, because that might very well tear it. So just using a little brush, and just being very gentle, and then just leaving it for a little bit to dry. Okay, so the other side's been done the same way. Just show you both sides now. So there's only the two transfers on this model. So it's nice and simple, quite elegant. Okay, so we'll put it on the turntable and see how it looks. Okay, the glazing's not perfect, but I think we managed to make it look quite presentable, even though it does have some cracks in it, and there's some very weird sort of dissolved bits in the plastic from the paint that was been put out in the past. But I think it looks pretty good actually. It's pretty close to how it originally looked. So, and we managed not to actually replace any of the components on the bus at all. We managed to salvage everything. So we've stripped and repainted it. We've painted up the wheels and the axles, made them all nice and neat. We've tinted the glazing, so we've turned it from a clear windowed bus into an amber windowed bus. And we've got a nice silver paint job again. Right, so if you enjoyed that, if you'd like to leave a like, by all means comment, and thank you very much for watching. Bye.